Look, there's a lot of tech. So one of the trends we even see in Databricks is how people are starting to reframe the definition of data as a whole. So we see a lot of structured data. Everyone's often talked about it. The event's called Big Data London. That was always this messy kind of data that was flowing in. Increasingly, we're starting to look at documents. We're starting to look at images. On Databricks, there's a huge proportion of data that gets processed that's image data, document data. So we're seeing an expansion take place. What's been cool is starting to see a general appreciation that the data definition is much broader. There's lots of different file types. What's also been good is people are starting to realize we need better maps. We need to know how complex systems of engagement work. And that a lot of it's been kind of conflated with graphs, but maps is the word I use. So that appreciation that we need to actually start mapping the world. We need to start figuring out how supply chains work, start figuring out how traffic works. That appreciation is actually very good because it's almost grounding. We've got a long way to go.
Just to go back to your maps, I feel like that's the key challenge, isn't it? You need someone who can handle that overwhelming kind of workload and just actually do it.
Actually, under the hood, there's many interactions and activities and tasks. Nobody maps that.
Yeah.
So that's one sort of problem. Another big problem is I want to make chocolate. And then I have to go all the way back to what makes the chocolate, and no one even maps that. So we need to be better at mapping. It's almost weird. A few years ago, we were using the idea of we're almost cartographers mapping how the world works, and we just we're not very good at it. So I think what's great about the conference is people are starting to think about these problems. People are starting to think less about the plumbing and more about these maps of different domains in the real world, different sort of organizations. So it's really cool.
Thank God for that, to be honest with you, because it's like you're not going to the root. If you don't start from the root and you want to be efficient using AI, there's no point because you don't know where it actually comes from. So you need to verify. Otherwise, AI is only going to agree with you. It's going to identify with you even so that's how it, yeah.
Well, AI's behavior is still something we haven't fully got our head around controlling. So one of the topics in my talk was talk about Evals, the evaluations you put on either side of the model to make it work in the way you want it to. Because you got to remember, loads of companies they want to use AI to make decisions, but they also want to mitigate the risk of the financial and reputational impact of those decisions. So if these AI tools are just sycophants and they're going, yeah, you're right, do that. How do we make sure that that is actually very carefully thought through?
So my final question to you would be, if you had to give one key takeaway to those who could not make it to the conference, what would it be and why?
So it's actually funny, I've been toying with this idea, understanding the bigger picture, what's the company doing, what do they do, mapping all of that, those in the sort of where is they going, how do they work, all of that, massively critical, but also getting under the hood of this. AI is in its infancy, and it's a bit like parenting. I've got 2 small kids, so I feel like there's almost this learning how to work with it, because it's different. It's not like old software. It's more real. It's more kind of, it can change its behavior on the fly. So my advice to people is get mapping the big stuff and get working and playing with the small stuff. Learn how it works. Actually just get building. Because if you don't do it and you talk about it, you're going to be found out. Because it's very, very different. Your mental model has to be very, very different. So those are my 2 pieces of advice. Map, build. And just do it. And AI-assisted coding allows you to do the build part a lot easier.